Shemai, I am Ukulaliens. You what? Let me explain. Since I started Ukulele Wales, I've had quite a few comments, questions, accusations that I'm stealing other people's videos. So today I just want to explain that I am Ukulaliens as well. I've got 2 YouTube channels. So why have I got 2 YouTube channels? Quite simple really. I started the Ukulaliens quite a few years ago when I started our ukulele club in school called the Ukulaliens, and I'm trying to keep that just for play-alongs. Then I started Ukulele Wales a few years after that to do everything else to do with ukuleles. So yeah, I've been making the ukulele play-along videos for quite a few years now, and they were always aimed at our school club. I had no idea how popular they were going to become. I am absolutely amazed and so happy that they are helping people all over the world, and then I try and do everything else here. Now, I know a lot of you here on Ukulele Wales realise that I am Ukulaliens as well. But judging by some of the comments I've had, and one quite recent, I thought, let's just explain again. So before I really explain how I went about setting up a ukulele club, which is hopefully going to help others, especially teachers out there, let me just give you a bit of history on the Ukulaliens. About 2016, I started playing ukulele myself. And one of the girls in my reg class, Madison, was quite a good ukulele player and suggested, she said, well, why don't you start a club? And I said, well, I'm not good enough to do that. And she said, no, it'll be fine. I will help. So that is how the Ukulaliens were born. Basically, we started at lunchtimes. I asked around. I'll tell you more about that when I'm saying about how I set the club up. And we got a group of pupils and staff together, and we all started learning together. I wasn't the greatest of players, and so starting a club, whilst trying to learn how to play ukulele myself, also trying to sing, and I'm not the greatest singer, whilst trying to teach other people how to do all of this as well, was really, really hard work. We started off like so many other people. We used the rainbow ukulele method, which is a really straightforward, aimed at quite young children, but it was great for us, and chord sheets. So we were very much paper-based. Then one evening, everything changed. I was on YouTube learning how to play ukulele, and I came across a ukulele play-along video. This particular one, I think it was Surfing USA by Dr. Jill Reese, and I thought, wow, this is fantastic. For me as a teacher, music teacher, but also trying to teach and learn ukulele at the same time, suddenly I wasn't having to worry about teaching others. I could let the video do all the work and enjoy it and learn myself. So that was sort of maybe the beginning of 2017. And then so later on in the year, I then started making my own play-along videos. Hence the Ukulaliens channel was born. But we were already called the Ukulaliens in school. So we just took that name, put it onto YouTube, and everything worked out. And it was brilliant because apart from using Dr. Jill Reese's play-along videos, I came across Chris Russell, Dr. Christopher Russell, another American ukulele stroke music teacher, and he'd done a video on how to make play-alongs. So I watched that, got myself a little bit of software and started making the play-alongs really aimed at our pupils in school. That's when things really started to take off in school, because suddenly now all of these pupils and students and staff started really having great fun because we were playing along to things and learning at the same time. And I don't think half the time, especially the pupils, realised how much they were actually learning from the play-alongs, and I know I certainly was. So, 2018, things have changed quite drastically. We've gone from having maybe 15, 20 players when we started. That was staff and students, to a beginners group one day, the main ukulele club, the Ukulaliens, a different day, and a staff club as well. We'd been trying to raise funds up until this point, having raffles, going busking, doing various events and things like that. And then by getting this funding, again I will talk about in a moment, we suddenly could buy enough ukuleles that we could really dream about. A PA system, microphones, amps and so on. And so things could suddenly really go much, much larger scale. So motivation is a really big part of running a school club and keeping everybody interested and having fun. So whenever there's an available event, whether we're going out busking, whether we're playing in a concert, whether I can even take some of the students to various things, I always try and do that as much as possible. We had our first Hawaiian ukulele day. That must have been probably the summer of about 2019. Absolutely fantastic day. We all had such brilliant fun, and it's just one of those wonderful memories to keep hold of. We did do another Hawaiian day. In between that though, of course, COVID struck. Now this is where the play-alongs really came into force, because it meant that even though I couldn't see all the Ukulaliens in person, having our normal weekly club, we could all carry on playing, and I started making these sort of mass videos where everybody would use a play along at home, record themselves in their own houses, send me the video, and I'd put them all together. So in a way we were still sort of playing together, just not actually in person. In fact, we went a step further and did a whole school summer virtual concert in the middle of COVID, basically using the same format, not just the ukuleles, but whenever we needed to do one of these mass videos, we'd get whichever group to play along to something, and then we'd edit all these videos in together. And I look back on that time now, yeah, it was absolutely horrific. But using play-along videos and music really did help. There were some negative things as well to do with the play-alongs and COVID, in that because I wasn't seeing the club regularly, I sort of lost motivation a little bit on keeping going, because it's always been about making the play-alongs for our club, and I get inspiration from students and things as well. As it happens, hopefully I am back on track with the play-alongs now. I also had a bit of a glitch with software. I use Filmora, and I was having to use a very old version of Filmora specifically for the play-alongs. They have now done a few updates and upgrades, and suddenly I can use the latest version. So making the play-alongs is actually a much nicer experience as well. So 2023, the club is more or less back to normal now. I should be able to get back to making more play-along videos. We've got a starters group, because each year I don't want to just start once a year. So I've got a starters group which keeps going quite regularly, restarting. I've got a beginners group. We've got the main Ukulaliens, and we've still got our staff group going. So we are very busy, and I'm just hoping this year as well I can maybe get the students out playing a little bit more in the summer, see if there's any outdoor events, maybe another busking event or things like that. So we're definitely looking to the future, and I can honestly say the ukulele is as popular in school now as it's ever been. So no, I am not stealing anything from the Ukulaliens or the Ukulaliens YouTube channel, because I really am Ukulaliens. So the topic of starting a school club. It doesn't have to be particularly a school, but I'm a school teacher. So some of this information may be useful for somebody maybe thinking about starting a community club. So here are a few questions you need to ask yourself. So the first question really you need to ask yourself is, can you play the ukulele? If you can, brilliant. That's going to make your life a lot easier. Like me, I wasn't particularly experienced, but I'm a long-time music teacher. But I do know that there are some teachers in particular out there who are put in a position of being asked to do something when you might not actually be that experienced. I think you do need to have a really basic grasp of it, even if you are just staying a little ahead of your students to start with. But yes, it is possible to start a group or a club in a school when you don't really play the ukulele very well. So what's your initial goal? For me, it was fun, starting small. I didn't particularly want to put myself under huge amounts of pressure. It was always going to be an extracurricular activity. In other words, it wasn't meant for classes or lessons to start with. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all. As it happens, it has grown massively. But don't put yourself under pressure. Think of it more as an extra rather than sort of full on to start with. What support do you already have? I knew I had a few ukulele players in school. I'd seen them round the school playing. I knew I had Madison, the young lady in my reg class. When I started asking, I also discovered I had quite a few teachers and other members of staff who already played, okay? So find out what support you've got around you, because that is going to help you massively. Right, the next question, there's lots of bits to it. What do you need? Well, let's start with the obvious. You need instruments. You need ukuleles. As I mentioned earlier, we started by doing raffles. We bought one initially, I think, and then started to get more and more by these raffles. We used to go out busking. So when we first started the club, I had 8 actual instruments in school, and we've now got over 100. Okay, so think small, maybe dream of going big. And being reasonably priced as well, I found that very quickly members of staff and students were actually buying their own ukuleles. So you need to fund buying instruments. As I just mentioned, we were doing busking, we would run raffles, and literally our local music shop, I'm going to give him a shout out, the music shop Neath, Leighton was a star. He donated a prize initially, we ran a raffle, then we would buy a few more ukuleles out of that money and a prize to run the next raffle, and suddenly before we knew it we were up to 20 ukuleles. There are other funding methods as well. We got the bulk of our money through a scheme run by a national supermarket, Tesco's, Bags of Help. And we entered that because we were busking in Tesco one day and they said, oh, you should do that. I didn't even know about the scheme. And we managed to get a £4,000 grant, which was a massive amount of money for our music department. So it meant basically we could buy so many ukuleles. As I said, we've got over 100 now. Some of them are specialist. So, we've got bass ukuleles, we've got baritone, tenor, electroacoustic ukuleles. I bought some amplifiers. I bought a PA, microphones. Really got ourselves kitted out, percussion instruments and drums to go with the ukulele group as well. I would have thought wherever you're living in the world, there are going to be some scheme way for you to apply for money. It might be, I don't know, a local council, arts fund, something like I did, which is being run by a commercial project. But it's worth asking and trying to find out what funding is available to you. You're going to need players. Pupils, students in school, depending on your age and things, it's quite easy to drum up enthusiasm, walk around playing a ukulele. Don't be frightened to make a fool of yourself. As I said, when I started, I couldn't play very well. I've never been the greatest singer. Put that together and it was not good. However, pupils react to that because they're thinking, well, if she can do it, I can do it better. All right. So you need to find players from somewhere. There are going to be some resources you need, whether it's chord sheets, whether it's, as I mentioned earlier on, the ukulele rainbow or rainbow ukulele method. It was one I found online. It didn't cost me very much. That got us started. Using play-along videos. It's not just the Ukulaliens. There are plenty of play-along videos out there and they are ideal for a school club because everybody has fun and it takes pressure off the person leading it. I am actually hoping in the future to maybe start doing workshops on how to use the play-alongs, whether it's for schools, whether it's for local community groups, I'm not sure yet, but it's definitely a case of watch this space for those. keeping the momentum. Once you've started your group, you've got to keep everybody enthused, whether it's because you're going out and playing in concerts or gigs or events, whether you're doing like we did, which was to go busking. One of my favourite busking experiences, something called Busker Gun Lice. Those of you who know me know I live in a little town village called Ustra Gun Lice. Busker Gun Lice was absolutely awesome. There were buskers all over the village all day long. We got moved on by the police, an absolute highlight, because as a long time busker, if you're not moved on by the police, you're not really busking. But that just got everybody really into it. The parents came along, the students came along, and whenever there's been a busking event since, we are there. I mentioned the Hawaii days in school. It's just an excuse to get together, have the students for a day. We normally do it in the summer. Lots of Hawaiian shirts and hula skirts and maybe a little bit of sun sometimes. I've got my tiki hut set up in school constantly now. But it's finding things just to keep everybody going, you know. Maybe one day we'll think about actually doing a tour with the ukulele group. We'll have to see. But if you can keep those students enthused, the club will just keep going. So you've got your ukuleles. How do you store your ukuleles? So this is actually my schoolroom. It's the stage, but it's also a teaching room. And I just want to show you because this is actually where the Ukulaliens happens. And this is the bulk of my ukuleles. I'm saying this because we have a similar set. If I just pull this out a little bit, you can see that it holds, I think it's about 55 ukuleles. I've got concerts on one side. I've got sopranos going along the top. I've got concerts over the other side. And then I've got a couple of banjolales on the end. And somewhere for the pupils to keep their ukuleles when they bring them in. We haven't actually got club today, but that trolley is normally absolutely full. So these are what I would call our specialist ukuleles. We've got 2 bass ukuleles, a couple of baritones, 3 tenor ukes, and 3 concert ukuleles, which are all electroacoustic. If you are looking to start a ukulele club in a school, you are going to have to think about storing your instruments and ukuleles. This rack really is absolutely brilliant. Fair play, our woodwork or technology department came up with a design. It's all on wheels. As I said, it holds, I think it is about 55 ukuleles altogether, but because of the nature of my room, I have to be able to move everything quite quickly. If you've got a long wall, you could put hooks up on it. For me, it had to be a case of transporting them around. So both my ukulele racks in here have got wheels on them, and it's exactly the same in the other music room as well. So if we need to move them around, we can quite easily. Took me quite a while to get the full rainbow of soprano ukuleles, but it did have to be done. We don't actually use those as the main ones now. We tend to use the Camise concert ukuleles, which, considering we've had them a good few years now, probably 4 or 5 years, they have lasted incredibly well. A couple of broken strings, but apart from that, absolutely no issues whatsoever. But you do need to think about storing your ukes. So you've got your ukuleles, you can store your ukuleles, you've got your players, you've got your support, and you're making music. Absolutely fantastic. Hopefully the hardest thing you are now going to find is, what do you call your club? And no, we are the Ukulaliens. You can't have that name. So I should also add, we have now done classes with ukuleles in our mainstream scheme of work in the music department as well. So something that just started as a little bit of fun, an extracurricular activity. Many pupils go on to do our GCSE, our higher exam, but I do teach it as whole class as well. So we just started with 8 ukuleles. We've now got over 100 instruments. Some of our first ukulele players have now gone, left school, are in college and getting on with their lives. We've had hundreds of students play since we started. So realistically, looking back, it really was one of the best things I ever did, was to start the ukulele club, as terrified as I was. All right, so if you are thinking about it, just do it, and hopefully some of the advice I've given you here today has helped. But if you want to know more, either email me, there is a link on the YouTube page, or go to ukulele.wales, www.ukulele.wales. Really simple, and there's actually an education page on there, and it tells you a bit more than I've actually said in today's video. But please, please, please feel free to ask if you've got any questions regarding anything at all to start a ukulele group. Do it though, please. So just before I finish, there are a couple of people I really do need to mention. Victoria Mitchell, my partner in crime. She's another teacher in school. She's actually in charge of our additional learning needs department. She played ukulele before me, and without her, Ukulaliens literally wouldn't exist. She's one of the founding members along with myself, and she was the one who actually came up with the name Ukulaliens. Madison Martin, the young lady I mentioned who was in my registration class in school a few years ago, a very, very good ukulele player. She actually came up with the idea of starting a club, and the school itself, without the school and all the support and the enthusiasm, we wouldn't be where we are today. So yeah, I started this video off explaining I wasn't stealing other people's videos. I do hope you've enjoyed it though. As always, if you've got a comment or a question, please feel free, leave it below. Give us a like if you've enjoyed, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on new videos. Thank you for watching.